First off, we had a recent article come out that's been pissing off everybody in all the right ways. Let's see. It's called How to Be Pro-Choice and Pro-Life. And just based on the title, you have no idea where I'm coming from on this. And just based on the title, I've had a number of people decide that they want to get offended about it. Telling me, you can't be pro-choice and pro-life. I'm like, well, dude, read the article and you understand where I'm coming from. But that's not exactly the case here. This guy did take the time to read the article. I wanted to go over one in particular comment thread that was brought up about this. I'll just roll right into this. The guy says, disingenuous headline. Well, again, you read the article, man, so you would know it's a very genuous headline.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a word. It's a very genuous headline.
It is tonight.
It's a word tonight. And then the very second sentence, he says, posted by a male, in all caps. And I find that interesting because I keep hearing these identity politic things come up, and people are like, well, if you're a male, you can't say anything about a woman's right to choose. You can't talk about women's rights and everything else. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't have to be bloody to see everyone else's pain. You know,
right? You
don't actually have to have experienced everything the other person has experienced to be able to have a logical explanation or a logical thought on something.
Well, and I'm actually, and you and I had talked about this last week, I'm in the process of actually writing a follow-up, I guess you would say, article to this, talking about the stance of what it's like to be the male in a situation of if a woman decides to have an abortion, do I have a say in it? Do I have a say in this at all? If I am with someone, and speaking from personal experience, if that woman, my wife, girlfriend, whatever, decides that, hey, I'm not ready to be a mom, but I'm ready to be a father, what's going to happen here?
Well, I actually heard somebody say, well, once you release that seed into the woman, you done gave up your rights and responsibilities. And I
still have to maintain that right as a father to take care of that child once it's born.
If she decides to keep it, well, all of a sudden you're still responsible for it. But if she decides not to keep it, well, you're no longer responsible once logic doesn't quite play out. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. For somebody to sit there and say, well, it's a male. He's a male. He can't say nothing. I'm like, that's dude. Just because I have a penis doesn't mean all of a sudden that my logic centers don't work. It's like logic doesn't work in certain areas for certain people based on their gender, sex, race, color, creed, religion, whatever the case may be. It's like this makes no logical sense. It's so much fun. So the first thing is that he says it's a bullshit anti-choice article, and I find that hilarious because I literally spent this article offering 50 different choices that you have up to the abortion.
Right.
Okay. You just pointing out basically, hey, while we're all arguing about this abortion problem, what about all the series of choices that led up to that moment? Well, that's all the article's about.
But I think the one thing that we're lacking here that I think a lot of people are missing from the very get-go, everybody's turned this into a political issue rather than it being a moral issue. And that's what kind of bothers me. It's in some sense, it almost to me sounds like it's a little bit selfish. It's people want to take the political stance rather than the moral stance, and that's what kind of bothers me. But again, that's just my perspective on that. And it's not right or wrong. It's just I think that's where a lot of people are approaching this from.
Right. Well, again, I just find it funny that he writes the words bullshit anti-choice article, completely ignoring the fact that I just literally listed off 50 choices that one can make. Like, this is not an anti-choice article by any means. So, shit. James says, hashtag shut it down. Until your penis identifies as an inverted vagina, you have no right to comment on women's issues. Yeah, me and my brother used to wonder about that is if, like, seriously, we used to really think that women were just men where they just said
it just went the other way,
like they got a vacuum leak that just pulls everything in. But
I think what I've recently found, I had posted something on social media about my stance on being pro-life, and because I didn't word it in such a way or better explain myself, it created a bit of a shitstorm. So what I've learned is when it comes to abortion, you almost have to be very thorough from where you come from, because a lot of what you can say, a lot of what you put out there in the social media world can be misconstrued.
Well, I've learned not to worry. I've learned not to worry about that as much.
I'm not, but you want to present your case and your statistics and your facts and get your point across to where you're coming from without sounding like a complete and evil monster.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, that whole post went south quick. But then I started to realize the people who knew me knew where I was coming from. People who don't necessarily know me as I thought they do took it in a completely different realm, which is fine. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion and to see it in a different, stance. My problem is, and when I kind of look back at that whole situation of what I posted, we are so driven. We've talked about this many times on the show, and a lot of people are so emotionally driven by something they don't agree with. They don't apply the 10-second rule. You apply the 3-second rule and instantly you're pissed off. You apply the 10-second rule, you start to compose yourself, you calm down, your heart rate kind of slows down, and you're like, okay, well, what did he mean by that? So rather than posting your emotional, stances and points, okay, Anthony, what did you mean by that?
You're moving into some dangerous territory there, telling people they should stop and think about what somebody might have. I should actually stop and say and consider what you might have meant by something.
Well, it just you have to look past certain things. And that is something I've tried to do when it comes to social media, is that you really have to step back, assess of what somebody has said, and then move forward with what you're going to go from there. So, it just depends on the person. And it really kind of shows the society in which we are now a part of.
Right.
And it's an emotional society, because these topics are such a hot topic and everybody is emotionally driven by them. That's why I said this has been more of a political atmosphere when it comes to abortions rather than a moral sense or stance that needs to be approached with.
Yeah.
So
Dan, our friend Dan says, throw schmurro, just throw out an opinion and embrace the chaos. That's kind of my thing. I mean, I'm going to do the best I can to explain what I'm going to say, and I'm going to write it in a entertaining way as best I can. I like to use like the dark, sarcastic humor. You've read the article, you understand where I'm coming from. It's all very dark humor, very blue collar type language. It's not meant for the highly Christian style audience that's very sensitive to curse words and somebody even said I should take out all the whore language. I'm like, well, that's just the way I talk. If you want to read my articles, you're going to read them the way I talk. But if I sit there and try to think about every possible objection and try to target each one, man, that would become a book quicker than nobody's business. And people are coming into that. Like clearly with this guy's comment. You're going to see as I continue on, he already had his mind made up before he even went into the article. I mean, you could tell just by the second line written in all caps, posted by a male. You already know where he's coming from. Like, this guy has zero nuanced thought. Okay, so James is now offended. Again, I can't win with this guy. Son of a bitch.
What time is it over there, by the way?
And Ed here, he says, I say what I want when I want. You know what? Ask Daniel. Yeah, he does say what he wants when he wants. And I think we need more people like that are like, you know what? Cut the bullshit. Let's just say what's on our mind. If you can't handle it, that's your problem.
Well, I think
like a Boston type attitude. Fuck you. No, fuck you.
I think the other issue too is that when I did post what I posted, it was out of sense of concern. I don't care about necessarily the woman that is pregnant. I don't care about who the father is.
They're going to take that clip out of context. I didn't care about the woman.
But let me finish.
That's how they're going to play it.
But what I'm saying is I am defending a child that has no voice. I am defending an unborn that cannot feel the pain that we do. That child is in a womb which the barriers of sound do not travel for us to hear. So for me, that's what I want to protect is the child that has no voice. That's what's important to me. And being in the situations that I've been, that is part of the reasons why I'm pro-life. And the heartbeat, like I said, it's a moral thing, man. And I cannot put myself into ever thinking that it's okay to abort a child, even if it's for a convenience factor, which statistics show that's what a lot of women do get abortions for. It's because they don't want to interfere with their career, with their finances. yeah, I'm sorry. I want to be a voice for the unborn that can't say anything, that can't show the pain.
Basically, I made a mistake, or it's not even I made a mistake. It's more like this happened to me.
Right.
It's almost they go into it with this attitude. This happened to me. It's not. That's not. I made a very distinct set of choices that led to this very moment. It's almost like I'm a leaf in the wind. This thing happened to me. There was nothing I can do. Of course, I need an abortion. Of course, it's like the logical next conclusion for them. It's like, let me go on, or we'll never get done because we're not even. So he says, everyone read to the end. There's nothing pro-choice about this, in quotes, which, like we covered, is because the entire thing is the choices you could have made. So especially the utter garbage of the last two paragraphs. Seriously? Again, seriously is in all caps, as if that's an argument to something. So just real quick, I'm sure not everybody's going to read this. It's short, so I'll read it. Last two paragraphs says, if you were offended by any of the above choices or the accompanying commentary, perhaps you need to ask yourself which is the more offensive crime. Some guy on the internet writing a snarky pro-choice article, or dismembering a perfectly healthy and viable baby moments before birth and claiming that pro-lifers are trying to deny you your choice to do so. I agree with the idea that it's your body and it is your choice, but as soon as you've entered the realm of abortion, it's no longer your body or your choice. You forfeited the right the moment you chose incorrectly in any of the above potential choices. So that's kind of the direction that I went with it, and right. he wasn't happy about it. But he goes on. He says, I'm not even going to waste my time destroying the misogynistic trash talk aspect of this post, nor the sheer idiocy of the bulk of it, especially numbers 1, 2, 4, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 22, 31, 35, 37. Oh, fuck, the whole article is just an anti-woman rant by a pig of a man. Like, give me the short list, man.
No,
just count out the ones you weren't offended by.
I think what people need to understand is that right. We're not anti-women. We believe in the sanctity of protecting the unborn. We believe in human life. We believe in, children having a chance, and that's at least my stance on that. Now, given the situation and the atmosphere that we're in with this topic, there are a multitude of reasons why people may have to have an abortion. For medical reasons, we understand that. That is a thought process that you have to be almost subconsciously, you know the rights between difference and wrongs, before you set out to do something. If you're just going to walk into an abortion clinic because, you don't want it to interfere with your school, your finances, and, you're concerned about what you're going to do next, you should have made a smarter decision before you decided to lay down with somebody and conduct that act. Now, if it's a medical situation, then yeah, obviously the parameters are now different. We understand. I mean, and again, it's a moral thing, and that's kind of the stance of where I'm at here. The percentages of, there being an issue where the pregnancy has gone wrong, isn't as high as what it is when it comes to half the women that show up to abortion clinics that show it for all the wrong reasons. And I have a real serious issue with that. As a man, I have a right to say that, Yeah,
I've heard a lot. I've heard there's a number of women that work in the industry, that work as nurses and that kind of thing, that have said, hey, we've been doing this for 25 plus years. This whole scenario of it's going to be either the mother or the child, or, we got to kill one or the other. That's literally never come up. That's just not a thing that happens. He goes on, he starts numbering. He's got number 1. He says, he writes, dismembering a perfectly healthy and viable baby moments before birth. Utter bullshit, because that never happens, in all caps. And it is utter lie used by white Sharia, trad life, asshat, anti-choice creeps to push their false narrative. Now, let me just point out that adjectives are not an argument, okay? Ad hominems are not an argument. I mean, if all you're going to do is attack me and call me names like white Sharia asshat and anti-choice creep, like that doesn't mean anything. That's just you getting angry and spouting off words. He hasn't actually countered it. I don't want to spend too long delivering each point. I just want to keep. I'm only this far in. I got a lot.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's all the farther we made it. He's just so full of shit. So then he points out, then he writes, as soon as you enter the realm of abortion, it's no longer your body or your choice. You forfeited that right. And then he says in all caps, as if it's a counter argument, more utter bullshit. He doesn't say anything else. That's not an argument. Again, like, dude, like, okay, so if I'm wrong, tell me where I'm wrong. Let's settle that. Yeah. But just calling it bullshit doesn't, I mean, for people that are looking at your comment, they might look at that and go, yeah, I agree. But you haven't actually countered anything. All you've done is said the words bullshit, as if that's some kind of magical spell that just makes everything I said before that go away.
Well, go ahead.
So an embryo is not a human being deserving rights and definitely does not have rights that exceed the woman's, period. Like, I didn't say any of that. That wasn't even part of the article. Like... So then this next one in all caps. It is very clear that you believe a pregnant woman has no rights over her own body. Again, where did I say that? Like, it wasn't in the article.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't there. It was just pointing out, look, you have a lot more control over your choices than people seem to think they do. It's like this whole story, this story didn't just suddenly happen with a snap of a fingers where you're laying on a table with some forceps at your vagina and somebody's getting ready to go in. That's not how this happened. There was a series of events. That's all I'm pointing out. It had nothing to do with women's rights, babies' rights, nothing. And he says, well, buddy, that is about the most non-libertarian thing you can believe. What, giving people the responsibility of their own choice and individuality? I'm pretty sure that's spot on.
Yeah.
Libertarian, I would believe. So then he goes on, A, an egg is not a baby. B, a zygote is not a baby. Okay, I'll agree that an egg is not a baby because it has to be fertilized in order to start moving toward that process. Is that fair so far? Fair. So the one thing he said that's correct in this entire thing is an egg is not a baby. Again, that wasn't even part of my argument, but I don't know why he's addressing this. So he says a zygote is not a baby. C, an embryo is not a baby. D, a fetus is not a baby. E, after birth, a baby is a baby. So only after it actually
birth comes out that it's now
after it has actually left the building, now you're a baby. Like this is the utter bullshit they do. They just try to sit there and create all these little words that somehow change what it actually is. Yeah, it's going to be a baby. Like we know how this movie plays out, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. This kind of falls in the parameters of people that are emotionally driven by something they don't agree with, rather than taking the time to talk about the issues at hand. They choose not to. So, no, an egg is breakfast.
So, real quick visit to the comments here. Dan says, probably told y'all before, but my brother's ex had an abortion and then told him 6 months later. She did it to continue pursuing her dead-end music career. It destroyed him. Oh, that's
exactly what I'm talking about.
That's gross. That's like, didn't even like. I mean, it's one thing to bring it up to the person and say, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking about having an abortion here." And, at least give the guy a chance to have a say. Give him a chance to make an argument. Maybe try to convince you not. But does he go behind his back and say, I'm doing this? Anyway, and then Ed says, no, an egg is breakfast. I don't know. I've never tried human egg in reference to this, but...
Not say that I will anytime soon.
Maybe it might be a thing. You might need a few thousand of them to make a good hearty breakfast.
Good omelet.
But then again, anyway... So the part of a human that makes us most human is the prefrontal cortex, and that doesn't even begin forming until we're well into the third trimester. In fact, it takes nearly 2 years after birth before it's functioning like a human and continues to develop until age 25. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost feels like he's setting up this argument to suggest that until you're 25, you're not even fully human because your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. Is that what I heard?
That's kind of the way it comes across.
It's like, it's not, yeah, your prefrontal cortex is what makes us most human, right? And that doesn't even begin forming until well into the third trimester. Okay, that might be true. But if that's what, that's, like, if you follow that to its logical conclusion, you're setting up a scenario where abortions could ideally happen until you're 24, 25 years old. Like, that makes no sense, right?
No.
It makes absolutely no sense. All right. So, Michael says, but these same people will argue if a pregnant woman gets shot and killed, it's double murder. Yes, that's true.
Is that the only time it's
Oh,
acceptable
just like
to claim that that's a human?
Another comment, just like caviar, human eggs. I've never had caviar either. we're gonna have to get caviar and human eggs on a blindfold taste test and see if that's gross. So let me finish this up and then we'll move on to the next subject. So he says, trying to claim that disposing of a small lump of prenatal cells is, quote, killing a baby, unquote, is simply an outright lie and deserves no respect. Well, I don't know about you, but in the realm of making arguments and putting forth, counter arguments, I don't think respect plays into that at all. It doesn't matter if you respect me. I could give a shit if you respect me. Obviously, you don't respect anyone the way you talk on the internet. Good God. And the way you type. Good God, you definitely don't respect the grammar Nazis at all. I've been doing some editorializing a little bit in this just to skip past the typos and the terrible, it's like fat finger mashing. I'm angry at you right now and I don't care if I misspell the word the. Anyway, this automatically invalidates your, quote, woman has no rights premise. Again, was never one of my premises. Never said that. No, I do not support murder of human beings, but a being means a conscious entity, and a prenatal lump of cells does not qualify. Sounds like if we're arguing that you're not a human being, if you are an unconscious entity, incapable of thinking, this guy here, not human. So let's move on to the next subject.